Your son might grow up to be just like you. And for most of us imperfect dads who care, I know that's a terrifying thought. After my divorce at 50 and a lot of hard work figuring out the mistakes I'd made, I realized I'd been living the life of a classic nice guy. People-pleasing behaviors, suppressing my own thoughts, needs, and opinions in an effort to be accepted, get along, and not make waves, and avoiding conflict at all costs. Once I figured this out about myself, the real facepalm moment for me was when I realized my kids were exhibiting similar behaviors. Being too nice, being fine and not needing anything, smiling when it probably wasn't what they were really feeling. And I've since had numerous conversations with them, and as they've grown into young adults, I'm relieved to see these patterns have improved. I wanted to share this aha moment because I thought other dads might benefit from it, and also because a common belief among people-pleasing nice guys, at least before waking up, is that we're only hurting ourselves by suppressing ourselves. We convince ourselves that it's not really that bad anyway. This is just what good men do. And I think we'd take our own recovery from these patterns more seriously if we truly understood that our sons might grow up just like us, or at least grow up with some unhealthy patterns that we probably modeled for them. Our daughters are affected as well, and that's important. But today I want to talk specifically about the father-son dynamic. And I think discussing this is relevant regardless of how old your son or sons may be. Although we can't go back and change what they learned from us early on, even if they're adults now, it's possible to have honest conversations about what we've learned and where we wish we had shown up differently, and also how we hope they will start living differently. In fact, I think a lot of fathers could significantly improve their sons' ability to live more authentically and to have more self-respect if they'd have unfiltered conversations like this with them. One reason these nice guy behaviors stay off our radar, especially in terms of how they affect our sons, is that they're subtle. When we think about fathers damaging their children, we typically think of obvious things like addiction, rage, abuse, neglect, criminality. Those are clear-cut. Everyone recognizes them as problems. But the nice guy father, he's often doing what he thinks is the right thing. He thinks he's modeling harmony, peace, being helpful, sacrificing, and doing for others, not getting upset. He thinks he's creating a calm, stable household. And he might pride himself on not being like his own father, maybe not being angry or controlling or absent. But in reality, he's modeling something entirely different. He's modeling not having a backbone. He's showing his son that men don't address conflict head-on in a healthy, communicative way. He's demonstrating that men don't have needs or aren't allowed to have them. He's teaching him that it's important to keep everyone else happy, which is a boundary issue that extends from healthy caring about someone and supporting them emotionally, which is good, all the way to believing the impossible belief that you can actually manage someone else's emotional state. Also, if he's in a dead, sexless, emotionally detached marriage, he's modeling that as a supposedly healthy example of what a relationship looks like. That was me. I came to that realization and it wasn't comfortable. Now, I want to mention something important. Anytime I talk about nice guy syndrome, I always get some commenters who either confuse what I'm talking about with genuine kindness, they're not the same thing, or who say that it isn't really a thing and doesn't actually exist. But nice guy syndrome is a useful construct. It's not an official diagnosis, but the behavioral pattern it describes, chronic people-pleasing, conflict avoidance, emotional suppression, lack of boundaries, these align directly with well-established clinical concepts that psychologists have studied for decades. And the research is clear. These specific patterns are passed down from fathers to sons. Children learn by observing and imitating their parents. And studies show this transmission happens even after controlling for socioeconomic factors and other variables. The father functions as the primary gender model for his son. How you demonstrate masculinity, how you handle emotions, how you navigate conflict. Your son is watching all of it and internalizing it as this is how men are supposed to be. And here's what the research shows happens. When fathers shut down their emotional expression in the name of appearing strong, sons develop higher emotional sensitivity and anxiety, not less. When fathers avoid conflict or use passive-aggressive communication, sons either become passive and withdrawn themselves, or they overshoot in the other direction and can't tell the difference between healthy assertion and inappropriate aggression. When fathers create enmeshed family systems where boundaries are unclear and everyone's supposed to prioritize everyone else's feelings, sons grow up unable to set healthy boundaries, rely on external validation, and struggle to develop their own sense of self separate from what others expect of them. The son doesn't grow up learning emotional peace. What he learns instead is inconsistent emotional volatility, where anger is present but disguised. He learns to become hypervigilant, constantly scanning the environment for signs of hidden disapproval or hostility. And that's the foundation of people-pleaser anxiety. Let's talk about what you're actually teaching your son when you're operating from the nice guy playbook. You're teaching him that his own emotions are a problem. When you suppress your frustration, your disappointment, your anger, your sadness, when you paste on a smile and say, "I'm fine," when you're clearly not, he learns that real feelings are dangerous. He learns that vulnerability is weakness. He learns to disguise his internal experience because that's what men do. You're teaching him that conflict is catastrophic. When you avoid difficult conversations, when you agree to do things you don't want to do, when you walk on eggshells to keep the peace, when you let resentment build rather than address issues directly, he's learning that confrontation is to be avoided at all costs. He won't learn how to disagree respectfully, how to stand his ground, how to repair relationships after conflict. He'll just learn to suppress and retreat. You're teaching him that his needs don't matter. When you consistently put everyone else first, when you never prioritize yourself, when you rationalize self-neglect as being kind or generous or a good husband or father, he's learning that self-sacrifice is virtue and that self-care is selfishness. He's learning that his worth is determined by how much he can do for others, not by his inherent value as a person. You're teaching him that love is transactional. And here's the part that might be the hardest to hear. If you're staying in an unhealthy or emotionally detached marriage while you continue to be subservient, emotionally repressed and suppressed, probably angry and resentful, but unable to express that overtly, you're showing him what marriage and relationships look like. And you might think you're staying for the kids and that that's what's honorable and best for them. And look, I understand that, and I also understand that's a complex decision and that every family situation is different. So I'm certainly not telling you that you should or should not do that. But don't be surprised if your son one day ends up in a relationship with a woman who doesn't respect him, who takes advantage of him, and he spends years unhappy and maybe goes through divorce himself, wondering how he ended up there and why he doesn't respect himself and nobody else respects him either. Here's something else that's crucial to understand. Even when you think you're successfully hiding your frustration, your resentment, your unhappiness, you're not. Not from your kids. Kids see through bullshit even when they can't put it into words. Research shows that fathers' suppressed anger and anxiety directly impacts their sons' emotional development. When emotions are pent up inside, they don't just disappear. They leak out as passive aggression, sarcasm, criticism, withdrawal, or unpredictable mood shifts. Your son might not be able to articulate what's happening, but he feels it. He picks up on the tension between what you're saying and what you're actually feeling. He learns to read the room, be hypervigilant about everyone's emotional state, to try to manage and fix things that aren't his responsibility to manage or fix. This is how the codependent pattern gets passed down. He learns that his role in relationships is to be the emotional regulator, to keep everyone stable, to suppress his own needs in service of keeping the system functioning. And that becomes his template for how relationships work. The father's role in his son's development is both powerful and specific. You're not just a parent. You're the model for what it means to be a man. You're showing him what masculinity looks like in real time, in daily life, in how you handle stress and disappointment and conflict and intimacy. If you model emotional shutdown and call it strength, you're not raising a resilient son. You're raising one who learns to suppress, deny, and pretend. He won't know how to sit with real emotion. He'll just learn to hide it. And then when he struggles, because he will struggle, we all do, he won't know how to ask for help. He'll believe that needing support makes him weak or defective. He'll try to handle everything alone, just like you did. If you model conflict avoidance, you're not teaching him to be peaceful. You're failing to teach him one of the most important life skills, how to disagree with someone respectfully, how to advocate for yourself without being aggressive, how to navigate tension without either exploding or disappearing. And if you model people-pleasing and self-sacrifice, you're not teaching him to be kind. You're teaching him that his boundaries don't matter, that other people's comfort is more important than his own well-being, that he should tolerate mistreatment or neglect because that's what good men do. Look, I know this might be uncomfortable to hear. It was uncomfortable for me to realize. But that discomfort became fuel for real change. It made me realize this wasn't just about me. I not only wanted to get better at all this, but I didn't want to slide back. And the good news is this: awareness is the beginning. You can't change what you don't see. And now you see it, hopefully. Your son doesn't need you to be perfect. He needs you to be honest. He needs to see you own your mistakes, speak the truth, set boundaries, and stop disappearing behind "I'm fine." He needs to see a man who's real. And this realization might keep you up at night. That's okay. And the point here isn't to get stuck in shame. We can't undo what's already happened. It's to wake up. It's not too late to make a positive difference. Discomfort means something important is waking up in you. You don't have to fix everything overnight, but you do have to stop pretending, because if you don't change this, he'll inherit it. And one day, he'll sit where you're sitting now, wondering how he ended up so far from himself. Break the cycle, not by being perfect, but by being real. Let me know how this fits with your experience. If this was helpful, please like it or share it with someone who might benefit from the message. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you at the next one.